Aradan.
Son of Aradan, your blood carries the key to my freedom.
The ground exploded beneath Kofi's feet as the world tree screamed like a living giant. Its glowing roots snapped apart, and entire floating islands crashed from the sky. Rivers of light turned black, while crimson lightning ripped across the heavens. The devourer slowly lifted its enormous body from the shattered crystal prison, its roar shaking every mountain and forest for hundreds of miles. Queen Niara's burning crimson eyes locked onto Kofi. For a moment, time itself seemed to stop. Every glowing flower withered. Every bird fell silent. Every spirit hiding inside the forest disappeared. Then the monster spoke with a voice that echoed through heaven and earth. Son of Aradan, your blood carries the... Before Kofi could ask another question, the devourer stretched out one gigantic claw. A wave of crimson energy burst across the hidden realm, instantly turning giant trees into stone. Mountains cracked apart, and the glowing rivers froze solid. Kofi raised his lion pendant, which erupted with brilliant golden light that pushed the dark power backward. The collision shook the heavens. Queen Niara stared in disbelief. No guardian had ever produced such power before. The pendant was responding not only to courage, but to Kofi's bloodline. The forgotten legacy of Aradan had finally awakened within him. Far beyond the hidden realm, inside Omodara village, Elder Bako suddenly collapsed beside the sacred fire. The flames changed from orange to emerald before turning deep crimson. Every elder recognized the terrible sign. Women gathered their children while hunters reached for their weapons. The oldest priest slowly lifted an ancient stone tablet buried beneath the village shrine. Carved into its surface was the exact face of Kofi standing before the devourer. Beneath the carving were words no one had dared read for 700 years. The final guardian has awakened. The last war has begun. Back beneath the world tree, the devourer laughed so loudly the sky cracked open. "Bring me the pendant," it commanded. Queen Niara stepped protectively in front of Kofi, despite her weakening strength. Suddenly, the lion pendant burned hotter than fire. Kofi cried out as glowing golden symbols spread across his arms and chest. Ancient memories flashed through his mind. Great kingdoms, impossible battles, and a mighty black African warrior standing against the devourer centuries ago. The warrior slowly turned around. His face was identical to Kofi's. Then everything went dark. Kofi awoke inside a strange place where neither day nor night existed. Endless golden clouds stretched in every direction, and enormous stone pillars floated in the sky like forgotten monuments. His lion pendant glowed softly against his chest, guiding him forward. Suddenly, footsteps echoed behind him. When Kofi turned, he saw a powerful black African warrior wearing ancient golden armor identical to the figure from his vision. The warrior carried a magnificent spear crowned with a roaring lion. His face looked exactly like Kofi's, only older and wiser. "Welcome, my descendant," the warrior said. "I am King Aradan." Kofi struggled to believe his eyes. King Aradan smiled before raising one hand. Instantly, the floating sky transformed into a vision of the past. Thousands of black African warriors marched through magnificent cities built from polished stone and shining gold. Children laughed while merchants filled crowded marketplaces. Rivers sparkled beneath enormous bridges connecting towering palaces. This was Aradan, the king explained. the greatest kingdom our people ever built. Kofi watched in amazement until the sky suddenly darkened. A crimson shadow swallowed the peaceful city, and screams echoed from every direction. The Devourer's invasion had begun centuries earlier.
King Aradan led Kofi to an enormous circular temple floating above the clouds. At its center stood 7 glowing stone pedestals surrounding an ancient lion statue with brilliant emerald eyes. "Your pendant is not merely a weapon," Aradan said. "It is one of the 7 guardian seals created to imprison the Devourer." He explained that 6 seals had already been destroyed over the centuries by greed, betrayal, and war. Only Kofi's pendant remained. If the final seal fell into the Devourer's hands, every prison holding the ancient evil would collapse forever. Far away, beneath the collapsing world tree, Queen Nyara struggled to maintain the magical barrier protecting Kofi's unconscious body. Emerald roots wrapped around him like a cocoon, while crimson lightning struck the ground repeatedly. Suddenly, enormous cracks spread across the roots. From the darkness emerged terrifying shadow hunters. Towering creatures made entirely of black smoke, with glowing crimson eyes, long skeletal claws, and wolf-like jaws filled with razor-sharp teeth. They slowly surrounded Queen Nyara, smiling with cruel satisfaction. The Devourer had sent his deadliest servants to steal the final guardian seal before Kofi could awaken. Inside the spirit realm, King Aradan placed both hands upon Kofi's shoulders. "Listen carefully," he whispered. "You cannot defeat the Devourer with strength alone." The king's body slowly began dissolving into golden light. To destroy him forever, you must find the forgotten crown of origins, hidden beyond the sea of spirits. Before Kofi could ask another question, the entire spirit world violently cracked apart. A gigantic crimson claw burst through the heavens. The Devourer had found a way to invade even the realm of the ancestors. Kofi reached for his spear as darkness swallowed everything. Kofi barely had time to raise his spear before the gigantic crimson claw ripped open the sky of the spirit realm. Golden clouds scattered in every direction as the heavens cracked like glass. Ancient temples collapsed into endless light, and floating pillars crashed into one another. King Aradan stepped in front of Kofi, his golden armor shining brighter than the sun. With one mighty thrust of his lion spear, he struck the monstrous claw. The impact shook both the world of the living and the world of the ancestors. But the Devourer only laughed louder than thunder. The crimson tear widened until the enormous face of the Devourer appeared above the spirit realm. His burning eyes stared at King Aradan with centuries of hatred. "You imprisoned me once," the monster roared. "This time I will erase your bloodline forever." King Aradan remained calm despite the overwhelming darkness. He told Kofi never to fear an enemy simply because it looked invincible. Courage, wisdom, and sacrifice had defeated the Devourer before. They would be needed again. As Aradan spoke, his golden spear began glowing with the same light as Kofi's pendant. Back beneath the world tree, Queen Nyra fought alone against the advancing shadow hunters. She planted her ancient staff into the earth, causing enormous emerald roots to burst upward like living serpents. The roots wrapped around several shadow hunters, crushing them into clouds of black smoke. But more creatures emerged from every direction. Hundreds of glowing crimson eyes surrounded the sacred clearing. Queen Nyra's breathing grew heavier as her emerald magic weakened.
She knew she could not protect Kofi forever. If he did not awaken soon, the final guardian seal would belong to the devourer. Far away in Umudara village, Elder Barko gathered every hunter, elder, and warrior before the ancient shrine. The oldest priest revealed a hidden underground chamber beneath the sacred baobab tree. Inside rested weapons untouched for 700 years. Lion shields forged from enchanted metal, spears carved with glowing runes, and ancient armor worn by Aradan's royal guardians. Elder Barko looked at the frightened villagers and declared that hiding was no longer an option. If Kofi fought alone, the world would fall. The descendants of Aradan must rise once more. Inside the spirit realm, King Aradan removed the magnificent lion spear from his hands and offered it to Kofi. The weapon floated between them, blazing with brilliant golden fire. This spear recognizes only one rightful heir, Aradan said. Kofi reached forward. The moment his fingers touched the weapon, a wave of ancient memories flooded his mind. He witnessed every guardian who had protected the forest through the centuries. Then the spear merged into pure golden light and disappeared inside Kofi's lion pendant. At that exact moment, Kofi's eyes opened beneath the world tree, glowing brighter than molten gold. Kofi's glowing golden eyes slowly returned to normal as he rose beneath the collapsing world tree. The shadow hunters froze in disbelief. The lion pendant radiated a brilliant aura that formed shimmering golden armor around his body before fading into his skin. Queen Niara smiled with relief, but her expression quickly hardened as the earth trembled again. The devourer's laughter echoed across the hidden realm. Kofi remembered every word King Aradan had spoken. The only way to end the nightmare forever was to find the forgotten crown of origins, hidden beyond the legendary Sea of Spirits. The shadow hunters attacked together, their skeletal claws slicing through the air like blades. Kofi stepped forward without fear. His lion pendant released a burst of radiant golden energy that wrapped around his spear. With one sweeping strike, waves of light surged across the battlefield, destroying dozens of shadow hunters instantly. The remaining creatures screamed as their shadow bodies dissolved into smoke. Queen Niara watched in amazement. Kofi was no longer fighting as an ordinary hunter. The ancient power of Aradan had awakened, transforming him into the first true guardian born in 700 years. Queen Niara guided Kofi to the highest root of the world tree, where a massive living map slowly emerged from glowing bark. Rivers of light, floating islands, forgotten kingdoms, and sacred mountains appeared across its surface. At the center lay a vast silver ocean, surrounded by endless mist. Beyond this sea of spirits rests the Temple of Origins, Niara explained. The crown of origins has remained hidden there since the first guardians defeated the devourer. No living soul has reached it in centuries, because the sea tests not strength, but the truth hidden within every heart. Meanwhile, deep beneath the shattered crystal prison, the devourer entered a forgotten chamber buried beneath the roots of the world tree. Ancient walls were covered with glowing carvings showing 7 black African guardians standing beside a colossal lion spirit. Furious, the monster smashed the stone with one massive claw until he uncovered an ancient obsidian altar. Resting upon it was a broken crimson crystal. The devourer smiled. "At last," he whispered. The crystal still contained enough dark power to summon the legendary Beast Legion, an army so terrible that entire kingdoms had vanished before them centuries ago. As dawn broke over the hidden realm, Queen Yara opened a glowing emerald portal leading toward the Sea of Spirits. Before Kofi stepped through, she handed him a small wooden compass carved with ancient lion symbols. "This compass never points north," she said softly. "It points toward destiny." Kofi nodded and crossed the portal without hesitation. Behind him, the world tree groaned as another enormous crack split its trunk from top to bottom. Far away, the devourer raised the broken crimson crystal into the sky. Thousands of monstrous roars echoed across the earth as something ancient began to awaken. Kofi stepped through the emerald portal and found himself standing on the shore of an enormous silver ocean. The water shimmered like liquid moonlight beneath a sky filled with enormous floating stars. There was no wind, yet thousands of ghostly boats drifted silently across the sea without sailors. The lion-shaped compass in Kofi's hand slowly turned until it pointed toward a distant island hidden behind glowing mist. Queen Yara warned him that every traveller who crossed the Sea of Spirits faced the greatest enemy of all, the truth hidden within their own heart. Kofi boarded the nearest ancient canoe. The canoe moved by itself across the silent water. Strange glowing fish swam beneath the surface, while enormous transparent whales floated through the sky above the sea. Suddenly, whispers surrounded Kofi from every direction. The voices belonged to people he had lost throughout his life. His parents called his name. His sister Amina cried for help. Even King Aradan's voice urged him to turn back. Kofi closed his eyes and gripped the glowing lion pendant. He remembered Queen Yara's warning. The Sea of Spirits could not deceive a heart that refused to abandon hope and truth. Far behind Kofi, the devourer stood upon the shattered roots of the world tree, holding the broken crimson crystal high above his head. The skies darkened as the crystal released waves of blood-red lightning across the earth. From deep beneath forgotten mountains and abandoned kingdoms, colossal stone gates slowly opened. One by one, the Beast Legion emerged. Towering monsters with obsidian armor, glowing crimson eyes, enormous tusks, skeletal wings, and razor-sharp claws marched toward the hidden realm. Their footsteps shook forests, rivers, and mountains. The last war had truly begun, and the earth trembled beneath their advance. Inside Umudara village, Elder Bako completed the ancient ceremony of guardians beneath the sacred baobab tree. Every hunter dipped the tip of their spear into a bowl of glowing golden water before kneeling together. The oldest priest placed lion-marked shields upon their arms and declared them protectors of the final guardian. Men and women alike pledged to defend their homeland, knowing many might never return. As the ceremony ended, the ground trembled violently. In the distance, enormous silhouettes of the Beast Legion appeared beyond the mountains, marching toward the village beneath a crimson sky. As Kofi's canoe approached the center of the Sea of Spirits, the silver water suddenly became perfectly still. Without warning, an enormous whirlpool formed beneath him. From its depths rose a colossal guardian unlike anything he had ever seen. A majestic black African spirit warrior over 100 feet tall, wearing brilliant golden armor engraved with ancient lion symbols. His eyes glowed pure white, and he held a gigantic spear made entirely of crystal light. The guardian looked down at Kofi and spoke with a voice that echoed across the sea. Only the worthy may approach the crown of origins. Prove yourself or perish. The colossal spirit warrior stepped onto the silver waters as though they were solid ground. Each footstep sent glowing waves across the sea of spirits. Kofi stood firmly inside the ancient canoe, gripping his spear, while his lion pendant shone with warm golden light. The guardian lowered his crystal spear, studying Kofi without speaking. His glowing white eyes saw beyond flesh and into the hunter's soul. Finally, he declared, "I am Azuka, first guardian of the crown of origins. I do not test your strength, I test the truth of your heart." The silver sea fell completely silent. Without warning, the sea of spirits transformed into a battlefield. Kofi suddenly found himself standing inside the ruins of Umudara village. Homes burned fiercely, while frightened children cried for help. Amina lay trapped beneath a collapsing roof, calling desperately for her brother. At the same time, Queen Niara was surrounded by the Beast Legion beneath the dying world tree. Azuka's voice echoed through the sky. "You may save only one. Choose wisely." Kofi's heart broke. Every instinct urged him to rescue his sister, yet abandoning Niara would doom the world itself. The impossible choice threatened to destroy him. Instead of rushing toward either illusion, Kofi slowly closed his eyes and knelt upon the ground. He remembered King Aradan's final lesson. True guardians are not ruled by fear or emotion alone. They seek truth before action. Raising far away, the devourer climbed to the highest branch of the wounded world tree and planted the broken crimson crystal into its glowing trunk. Dark energy spread through the ancient tree like poison through blood. Emerald leaves turned black and withered instantly. Rivers of light became rivers of shadow. Across the hidden realm, magical creatures fled in terror as the corruption spread from root to root. Queen Niara fell to her knees in horror. If the world tree died completely, every magical barrier imprisoning the devourer would collapse forever, leaving the entire world defenseless against eternal darkness. Azuka lifted his gigantic crystal spear toward the heavens. The clouds above the sea of spirits slowly parted, revealing a magnificent floating island bathed in golden sunlight. At its center stood an enormous temple carved from radiant white stone, surrounded by waterfalls flowing upward into the sky. Suspended above the temple floated a dazzling golden crown, radiating power brighter than the sun itself. "The Temple of Origins awaits," Azuka declared. But another has already begun the journey. Suddenly, the sky darkened as a crimson portal opened behind the temple. A mysterious armored warrior stepped through, carrying the mark of the devourer upon his chest. The crimson portal widened as the mysterious warrior slowly stepped onto the floating island. His armor was forged from black obsidian, streaked with glowing crimson veins, and a tattered dark cloak billowed behind him without wind. He was a tall, muscular black African warrior with deep ebony skin, a scar running across his left eye, glowing crimson eyes, and long black dreadlocks tied with broken golden rings. In his hand rested a massive obsidian spear, pulsing with dark energy. Azuka's expression changed from calm to sorrow. "No," he whispered. "It cannot be you, Malik."
Kofi stared in confusion as the mysterious warrior lowered his weapon. "I was once the second guardian," Malik said quietly. "I swore to protect the crown of origins beside Azuka." His voice carried both pain and regret. "But when the Devourer offered me the power to save my dying family, I betrayed the Guardians." Azuka closed his glowing eyes, remembering the day his closest friend abandoned the sacred oath. Malik slowly raised his crimson spear again. "Now I serve the darkness, because there is no redemption left for me." Without another word, Malik charged across the floating bridge with incredible speed. His obsidian spear collided with Kofi's glowing weapon, releasing a violent explosion of crimson and golden light that shook the Temple of Origins. Every strike echoed like thunder through the heavens. Kofi struggled against Malik's overwhelming skill. Unlike the Shadow Hunters, Malik fought with the discipline of a true guardian. Azuka watched silently, refusing to interfere. This battle was not about strength. Kofi had to prove that he deserved the legacy of Aradan by overcoming a warrior who had once carried the same sacred responsibility. Back at the World Tree, Queen Nyara and Elder Bako finally united their forces. The warriors of Umudara village arrived wearing the ancient lion-marked armor of Aradan's kingdom. Men and women stood shoulder to shoulder with enchanted shields and glowing spears as the Beast Legion emerged from the forest. Towering monsters roared while crimson lightning split the sky. Elder Bako raised his ancient staff and shouted, "Today we fight not for glory, but for every child yet unborn." Thousands of voices answered together before the first great battle between humanity and the Beast Legion erupted beneath the dying World Tree. High above the Temple of Origins, Malik knocked Kofi's spear from his hands and forced him to the edge of the floating island. The crown of origins hovered only a few steps away, shining with brilliant golden light. Malik lifted his obsidian spear for the final strike. Suddenly, the lion pendant around Kofi's neck burst into blinding radiance. Behind him appeared the transparent golden spirits of King Aradan, Azuka's fallen guardian brothers, and every guardian who had ever protected the forest. They stood silently behind Kofi, their hands resting upon his shoulders. Malik's eyes widened in disbelief. For the first time in centuries, the spirits of the ancient guardians surrounded Kofi in a circle of brilliant golden light. King Aradan stepped forward, his voice echoing through the Temple of Origins. Power alone never protected this world. It was always the courage to choose sacrifice over fear. Tears filled Malik's crimson eyes as the memories of his sacred oath returned. His obsidian spear trembled before shattering into fragments of black crystal. Kofi reached out his hand instead of attacking. For a long moment, silence filled the temple. Then Malik fell to his knees, finally breaking free from the Devourer's centuries-old corruption. The moment Malik rejected the darkness, the Devourer unleashed a roar that shook every corner of creation. The crimson mark on Malik's chest burst into black flames as the monster ripped open the sky above the Temple of Origins. A gigantic shadow covered the floating island, while enormous obsidian claws tore through the heavens. The devourer himself descended toward the temple, surrounded by storms of crimson lightning and swirling darkness. Far below, Queen Niara and the warriors of Umudara watched the heavens split apart. They knew the final battle had begun, and the fate of the world now rested on Kofi. The crown of origins slowly descended from above the temple and hovered before Kofi. As he placed it upon his head, a wave of radiant golden energy surged through his body. His lion pendant transformed into a magnificent glowing emblem upon his chest, while his hunting spear became the legendary Spear of Origins, shining with gold and emerald light. Behind him appeared the transparent spirits of King Aradan, Azuka, Malik restored to light, and every guardian who had defended the forest across the centuries. Together, they stood as one. Kofi had become the last guardian foretold in the ancient prophecy. The devourer struck with enough force to shatter mountains. Kofi leaped into the sky, meeting the ancient monster above the world tree. Golden and crimson energy collided with a blinding explosion that illuminated the entire continent. Below, Queen Yara, Elder Bako, Amina, Malik, Azuka, and the warriors of Umudara fought back the Beast Legion while watching the battle unfold above them. The world tree continued to crack beneath the overwhelming power. Finally, Kofi remembered Aradan's greatest lesson. Some victories are won not by destroying an enemy, but by sealing away the darkness that feeds it. Kofi drove the Spear of Origins into the heart of the world tree. Instead of destroying it, the spear released every remaining guardian seal, flooding the forest with golden light. Queen Yara combined her emerald magic with the power of the crown, while Malik willingly sacrificed the last traces of darkness within himself to strengthen the seal. The devourer roared as vines of living light wrapped around his body, pulling him into a new crystal prison deep beneath the restored roots of the world tree. Peace slowly returned. Rivers flowed normally again. The floating islands settled into the sky. The Beast Legion vanished like smoke beneath the morning sun. As dawn broke over the forest, Queen Yara crowned Kofi before the people of Umudara as the first guardian of the new age. Elder Bako smiled proudly, Amina embraced her brother, and Malik quietly disappeared into the wilderness, choosing a life of redemption. The world tree bloomed with brilliant emerald leaves brighter than ever before, proving that hope had conquered despair. Yet, as the camera slowly descended beneath the deepest roots of the world tree, one tiny crimson crack appeared on the surface of the new crystal prison. From inside the darkness, a single glowing crimson eye opened.